Okay, so welcome back to another edition of Everything Everywhere All at Once, episode 33. And, since the beginning, we've been saying that this is about finding certainty and meaning in all the chaos and mayhem that is all around us in our lives, in our relationships, in our careers, everything, everywhere, all at once. And of course, we have been inundated with information and pulling our energy and our focus into what's going on in Israel and Gaza with Hamas and the Israelis, and then from there, all the speculation about Iraq and China and Russia, and of course the United States involvement as well. It's all chaotic, and trying to make sense of it all is impossible. And as we're all doing listening, try to listen, I'm sure, to all sides, and people are picking sides, and that is what the current regimes, countries, leaders, people of influence want us to do, to be in conflict with each other on every level, because that keeps us distracted away from what we really should be focused on and allows them to do whatever they want in the meantime. And so we've been talking about different philosophies that back up what I've been trying to say, which is we need to let go of the consciousness. We need to transcend the consciousness, transform the consciousness that created the problem, and really live at a different level. To extrapolate ourselves from this illusion, which we think is real, which is really, probably 99% sure a simulation, and start living in a different reality, a fifth dimension, if you like, where we begin to live the lives of our choice. We take back our control. And the way that we do that is transcending a mind-driven world which controls us by fear, because it controls our mind, which is driven by our ego, which tends to side on fear because that is a primal instinct. It causes us to react, live by emotion, which are reactionary. Our thoughts and emotions tend to be reactionary and driven by fear. And we need to start to get in touch with our CIA, our Central Intelligence Agency, which is our heart, and live by our intuition and our heart that then uses our brain, our intellect, and our emotions and our feelings to guide us through life at what I refer to as a quantum level, just because most people know that at a quantum level, we can see everything everywhere all at once by connecting to our divine inspiration, which is the higher power that controls everything and can see everything from a much higher perspective. And so we've just been looking at philosophies, ancient philosophies that verify this. And one of them is Wu-Wei, which is part of the Taoist tradition, right? Which is where we just really get in the flow. And this is a symbol for Wu-Wei, right? So, and Wu-Wei says, as we can read here, right, is a Chinese philosophical concept that translates to effortless action. How cool would that be, right? Or action without action. And we can see here a Shaolin monk in sort of a semi-meditative state. If you look closely, one eye is open, one eye is closed. So he's in both worlds at the same time. But it's a core principle in Taoism and other schools of thought that emphasize living in harmony with the natural world. What a concept, right? And if you think about it, we've been so extrapolated from our nature, which again makes us easier to control. When we don't have connection with our nature, and we are nature, nature is us, right? It's not a store, right? We can live in harmony with the natural world. And the concept of Wu-Wei suggests that by being or letting go of our ego and desires, as it says, as Buddha said in the Buddhist traditions, we can act in a way that is spontaneous, effortless, and aligned with the Tao, which is the underlying principle of the universe. And in the last episode, we got to some of the principles that the Wu-Wei tradition teaches, and we got to 3 areas of our lives that Wu-Wei can have a profound impact. And so we're now going to look at the 4th, right? As a continuation, and that is relationships. Right. Not a big part of our lives, just a small part of our lives, but nevertheless something that we might want to consider looking at, right? Okay, you get the English sarcasm there, right? In relationships, everything is a relationship, not just with your spouse and your family and your friends, but also your career and your health. Everything is a relationship. And we can improve our relationships by promoting compassion. So compassion is being able to see from a higher perspective through our heart and intuition that we're all one. And that when people act out of violence, they're hurting. And when people are playing the role of victim or being the victim in this reality, they're also in pain, right? And there's two sides to the story, and we have to have compassion for both. Not easy. Well, like I keep saying, I never said it was going to be easy. I just said it was going to be worth it, right? So these are the things that we're here to learn. And not just learn intellectually, but learn in the real world, right? So when we have this ability, we have understanding and non-judgmental approach. That's so important because at a higher level, if you want to call it God, you want to call it the universe, you want to call it whatever name you want to give it, God doesn't get mad, right? God doesn't judge. God is letting us be who we are, letting us have our journey of forgetfulness on the way to remembrance, to remember who we are, but we have to forget in order to have experiences, right? And now we're in the process of remembering again. So, and the fifth way that we can impact our lives is the overall well-being we can experience by practicing these things. Just like a doctor, we're practicing, right? No one's perfect at it, right? We're all getting better and better. We try, we do things, we fall down, and we get back up and we try again. So woo-wee can contribute to overall well-being by encouraging mindful living, being in the moment. So we can be mindful when we're living from the heart, because when we're living in the brain can never be in the present. When we're thinking about the future or the past. It's never present. And where's all the joy, happiness? Where's all the richness and the rewards in life? It's in the now. Being fully present gives us a sense of inner peace, right? So when we're mindful, we reduce stress because we realize in the now, fear can't exist. It's impossible. When you realize in the now you're okay, there is no fear. And the only way to realize that is to be heart-centered and not be coming from the brain and the intellect, right? And then we can be at peace. So you've heard me say this a number of times, what you resist persists. Now, again, we can take things out of context because when you take weights and you lift them, there's resistance, right? And that resistance can build strength, right? And so in the Shaolin monasteries and the Shaolin teachings, it gets very physical, right? Because we need to be strong in the physical world. And so we want to use resistance to help us to build strength. You know, not only in physical strength, but in our emotional strength. Very important. So we're not controlled by our emotions, because when we see these terrible things happening in the world, our immediate response is to react. And that can be from anger, hate, all the negative low vibrational emotions. But in the moment, that anger can serve us to get us out of a situation to protect ourselves. But it's not a way to live. And that's where people very often end up, which causes wars and feuds for generations, right? Which does not serve us, right? So when they say what doesn't kill you, what? They say makes you stronger, right? Well, it has the potential to make you stronger, right? It doesn't have to. I mean, how many of you had a day in your life, and on that day you said something like this: "This is the worst day of my life"? Yeah? If not, you probably will. Some of you, like me, might have had more than one. But now when you look back on those experiences, you might say, you know what, I wouldn't want to go through that again, but having been through it taught me more about who I really am than I would have ever known, than I could have ever possibly known. And so I'm better for it. I want to go through it again, but I'm better for it. All right. So it has the potential to make you stronger if you can look at it from a higher perspective. Or it can make you weaker if it makes you hateful, angry, resentful, where you feel like you're a victim. That doesn't serve anybody, especially you. Where you just can't forgive. And you know what? The only person that suffers from the inability to forgive is the person who cannot forgive. Because the person who did whatever you think did it to you could be on the beach somewhere having a great time. It doesn't bother them anymore. So why suffer? Forgiveness is the path to love, right? It's not easy, but it's worth it. Okay, so what you resist persists. So what it's saying is love thy enemies. You've heard this, right? This is not new information. What does that mean? Love thy enemies. Don't have any, right? I'm sure you've seen the book by Patrick Bet-David that says, choose your enemies. Well, just again, it's the same thing, Find a way to have common ground with the people who you think are your enemies. Because in reality, in the higher perspective, they're here to help you. What you find difficult to accept about them is something you are having difficulty accepting about yourself. And when you can transcend that, they can become your best friends. Sometimes, all right? But be for what you want. Don't be against war, be for peace. Be for what you want. Don't be against what you don't want, because that just holds it in place. That's what we mean when we say what we resist persists. So love those who are the hardest to love because they need it the most. It's true. These things you've heard before, but we live in a world that just says, oh, that's weak. Don't trust your feelings because they'll lead you astray. No, your emotions combined with thought will do that. But when your emotions are tempered by your heart and we use our mind to put into the world our love, when we bring our heart to everything we do, we become a heartist and we practice heartism. And we can transform this world. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, and everybody's not going to do it all at once, but it's not supposed to be that way. And you can choose to do that whenever you are ready. Are you ready? I think you already were. All right, so what you resist persists. You may not agree. You don't have to agree with people, but you can disagree and agree to disagree. It doesn't have to come from heart. It doesn't have to come from hate or anger, right? And you may speak out, but speak out with compassion. Speak out with understanding. And you don't have to participate. If they decide to go to war, just say, I'm busy that day. Don't participate. The bottom line is, look, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And so we're going to look at the world not just differently with these eyes, we're going to use our real eyes. We're going to see things differently, because when you see through your heart, and you go, Stephen, my heart doesn't have eyes. Yes, it does. Those eyes are your feelings. You see, even if you close your eyes, you can feel your way. Use your instincts. These eyes will deceive you. Your instincts won't. Your heart knows no fear, but your mind does. So we're going to look at the world with real eyes from our heart and intuition, and you'll see a whole new world. A world that loves you and that you'll be in love with. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. I look forward to seeing you in the next edition of Everything Everywhere All at Once, finding certainty and meaning in all this chaos and mayhem. Until then, sapere ord, dare to be wise.